Chapter 28-29. Deliberate targeting. Ancient God Long Yang's words made the nine sect masters' expressions change slightly, but they didn't object. Instead, they looked warily at the Rinzhu prodigies from the sacred realm. These were the strongest youths in the sacred realm, and all of them were Rinzhu realm cultivators. Moreover, they had more people than the 9 major sections. Once they entered the fairy devil palace, they would be outnumbered. Even though they knew that the sacred realm was deliberately suppressing the prodigies from the other sects, they couldn't say anything. Zhonglang kept winking at Yi Fei, telling him to restrain himself. After all, these sect masters were merely ancient emperors, and Yi Fei had lost the celestial emperor's decree that could kill ancient gods. If they got into a conflict now, it would be disadvantageous for them. Yi Fei naturally understood this, and he couldn't help but think gloomily, forget it. I'll just be a little more careful when I go in. Then, he coldly watched how ancient god Long Yang would assign the people. Ancient god Long Yang didn't look at Yi Fei. Instead, he methodically divided the people into groups. Basically, he maintained a group consisting of 1 sacred realm prodigy and 1 outer sect prodigy. This was also a disguised form of surveillance. This way, no matter what treasures the people from the other sects obtained in the fairy devil palace, they wouldn't be able to escape the eyes and ears of the sacred realm. For those who were particularly powerful, such as Feng Yun, Chun Xiaoyao, and ancient god Long Yang, 2 Rinzhu prodigies from the sacred realm were assigned to watch over them. Finally, it was Yi Fei's turn. Ancient god Long Yang looked coldly at the remaining 4 sacred realm prodigies and said, Lu Mohan, Lu Chun, Wang Feng, Zhang Bao, the 4 of you will be in the same group as Yi Fei. Ancient god Long Yang had actually assigned 4 sacred realm prodigies to watch over Yi Fei. This method made the 9 major sects gasp in amazement. Then, they looked at Yi Fei sympathetically. If the 2 of them were to travel together, Yi Fei would have a 50% chance of obtaining any treasures in the Immortal Demon Palace. However, with the 4 of them watching over him, there was basically no chance of him obtaining any treasures in the Immortal Demon Palace. After all, 3 of these 4 sacred domain geniuses could have been sent to suppress Yi Fei, while the remaining 1 went to obtain the opportunity. Upon discovering this unfair result, Sect Master Zhonglang, who was extremely protective of his own people, couldn't help but be enraged. Ancient god Longyang, what is the meaning of this? You are deliberately targeting Yi Fei and my Rising Dragon sect. How dare you? Since when is it your turn to speak in front of me? Besides, my sacred domain has always been fair in its dealings. Tell me, is this old man targeting Yi Fei? Ancient god Longyang coldly swept his gaze over the sect masters of the other sections. The sect master of the sky, cleaving sect, had already stepped forward. Ancient god Longyang is just and impartial. How could you target a mere Rinzhu ant? Zhonglang, if the Rising Dragon sect feels that this is unfair, you can leave. However, please don't waste our time. The Blazing Flame sect master also stepped forward and said coldly. The other sect masters of the Myriad Poison sect and the Divine Bee sect also had cold expressions on their faces. After all, these sects had all had geniuses who had died at the hands of Yi Fei. Although they weren't so petty as to seek revenge on Yi Fei, they were still happy to see Yi Fei being targeted. Zhonglang's expression darkened even more, and he couldn't help but glance at Yi Fei worriedly. Yi Fei smiled faintly and gave Zhonglang a reassuring look. Senior brother, don't worry. I'll be right back. After all, he had made a promise to the ancient god corpse spirit. Since it was a promise, no matter how difficult it was, Yi Fei had to fulfill it. Yi Fei immediately took out the Heavenly Emperor's ancient medallion and threw it at ancient god Longyang. A mocking look flashed across the latter's eyes as he shot a look at Lu Mohan and the others. Then, he gathered up the Heavenly Emperor's ancient medallions and threw them into the void. Rumble! The void shattered like clouds, forming a huge void vortex. Within the vortex, a building similar to the Golden Palace emerged from the void, shining with golden light. This was the Immortal Demon Palace hidden in the Great Void. It was also the place where the young heavenly emperor had left his inheritance. Moreover, this young heavenly emperor seemed to be even stronger than the heavenly emperor of the sacred region. Therefore, even though the sacred region had controlled the great void for thousands of years, they still hadn't been able to obtain the inheritance of the immortal demon palace. They could only send out their most outstanding disciples every once in a while to explore it. The heavenly emperor palace has opened. All of you quickly enter. Following ancient god Longyang's roar, the dozen or so sacred region geniuses spread out and landed beside the geniuses of the 9 major sections. 4 sacred region geniuses stood beside Yi Fei and watched his every move. "Brother Yi, our great genius, the great demon, please," Lu Mohan said sarcastically with a cold smile. Yi Fei didn't get angry when he heard this sarcastic remark. Instead, he put on a cold expression and retorted coldly, "Even if I'm a demon, I'm still better than an ungrateful dog like you who betrays your master. Please don't talk to me. It's disgusting." With that, Yi Fei lifted his foot and charged toward the vortex of the immortal demon palace. Only Lu Mohan was left. His face alternated between green, white, and red, but he had no choice but to call out to the 3 people beside him. "Senior brothers, let's chase after him. We can't let this demon have the chance to act alone." "Of course we know. There's no need for you to say anything," the 3 sacred region geniuses said coldly. Without waiting for Lu Mohan, they turned into flowing light and followed Yi Fei into the void vortex. Lu Mohan's face was completely ashen at this moment. There was even a hint of distortion and malevolence. "Don't you dare obtain the heavenly emperor's opportunity in my immortal demon palace. Otherwise, I'll make you regret offending me." Boom! Filled with rage, Lu Mohan also charged into the void. In the end, only the sect masters of the 9 major sects and ancient god Longyang were left outside the immortal demon palace. It wasn't that they didn't want to enter, but the immortal demon palace had a rule that only Rinzhu realm cultivators could enter. Even the heavenly emperor of the sacred region couldn't do anything about it, let alone the ancient emperors and ancient gods. I wonder if anyone will be able to obtain the heavenly emperor's inheritance on this trip to the immortal demon palace? The sect master of the Mystic Lady sect said with some yearning. Hearing this, the other sect masters smiled coldly. It was indeed a woman's view. The Holy Devil Palace had been explored by the Holy Region for thousands of years, but none of the Holy Region geniuses had managed to obtain the inheritance, let alone now. Now, these sect leaders could only hope that the geniuses they had chosen would be able to obtain some benefits in the Holy Devil Palace. As for the Heavenly Emperor's inheritance, under the strict surveillance of the sacred region, no one dared to hope for it. Chapter 2830. A dead Injong Lang was worried outside. Entering the immortal Devil Palace, Yi Fei felt as if he had entered a dark red world. In this world, countless blood clouds floated in the sky. These blood clouds constantly churned and collided. Suddenly, a special blood rain would fall from the sky. However, this blood rain didn't have the smell of blood. Instead, it had a strange floral fragrance. Many people who entered trembled when they smelled this fragrance. It's the fragrance of the ancient god's blood lotus. Chen Xiaoyao and Feng Yun were certain. As outer sect geniuses who had fought until the end, they had 2 sacred domain geniuses beside them to monitor them. Feng Yun, who didn't belong to any sect, had participated in the opening of the Fairy Demon Palace. Even the sacred domain hadn't objected to it and had only monitored them. This attracted a lot of attention. Yi Fei also felt that Feng Yun was becoming more and more mysterious. Then, the cold voices of the 2 sacred domain geniuses came from beside him. It's just a floral fragrance. You can be surprised when you see the real ancient god's blood lotus. However, I'll say this first. You can pick the ancient god's blood lotus here, but you have to hand it all over to the sacred domain. Once we leave, we'll distribute it according to your contributions. Lu Mohan, take Demon Yi and follow us into the Blood Cloud Mountain. Yes, senior brother Lu Chen. After entering the Fairy Demon Palace, Lu Mohan suddenly became low-key and deliberately flattered Lu Chun and the other two. This made Wang Fong and Zhang Bao look at Lu Mohan with even more disdain. Lu Mohan had already joined the Sacred Domain's main sect and was a disciple of ancient god Uduo. However, Uduo was at most an ancient god of the Sacred Domain. Their masters were all-powerful elders. How could they care about a traitor like Lu Mohan? Lu Mohan, how does it feel to be an ungrateful dog? Yifei mocked coldly. These words almost made Lu Mohan fall into a frenzy in an instant. However, Lu Mohan was a peerless genius after all. He was also the former leader of the Han Alliance. Even if he was tainted, Lu Mohan's mind was still incomparably tenacious. He snorted coldly and said, "Demon Yi, don't even think about angering me. Even if I'm a dog, I'm still a saint's dog. And this dog of mine has a lot of potential. Compared to a salted fish like you, I can't be mentioned in the same breath. Yes, my family's tortoise often says the same thing." Yifei smiled faintly. In the beast-marked space, the dragon turtle also raised its head in confusion and looked outside in confusion. Then, the dragon tortoise saw LV Mohan, whose expression was as black as his own. Wang Fong, who was beside him, was amused by Yifei's words. When she noticed LV Mohan's expression, she immediately tensed up and scolded him coldly. "Cut the crap and hurry to the Blood Cloud Mountain. When it rains in the Immortal Demon Palace, the Blood Lotus will appear. Otherwise, they will hide in the void and be undetectable." Boom! As they were speaking, a hill not far away was soaked in the blood rain. Suddenly, the hill shook and turned into a huge bloody mouth that lunged at a Saint Prodigy nearby. The Saint Prodigy seemed to be very experienced in this sort of situation. He immediately leaped into the air and appeared behind the sky, cleaving Sex Prodigy. Then, he ordered, "This is the guardian spirit of the Blood Lotus. Hurry up and destroy this beast." The sky-cleaving Sex Prodigy roared in anger. He couldn't afford to offend these Saint Prodigies, so he could only vent all his anger and resentment on the guardian evil spirit. However, the sky-cleaving Sex Prodigy unleashed his full power and killed the guardian evil spirit. He was pleasantly surprised to obtain a low-level ancient divine blood lotus. One of his hands unceremoniously took the ancient divine blood lotus as his own. He even mocked discontentedly. "What are you looking at? It's already good enough that my saint realm allowed an outer sect country bumpkin like you to enter the Immortal Demon Palace. We naturally have the right to obtain the treasures here first." This prodigy wasn't the only one who did this. In another direction, another outer sex prodigy was lucky enough to find an ancient divine blood lotus. However, the Saint Prodigy who was watching him was one step ahead of him and snatched the blood lotus. The blazing flame sex prodigy was so angry that his face turned green, but he didn't dare to say anything. This was because while he was angry, several Saint Prodigies stared coldly at him at the same time. If he resisted in the slightest, he would be in grave danger. Only then did Yifei realize how tyrannical the Saint realm was in the heavenly realm. No wonder Honorable Master Chu Kuangren would rather die of old age in the Dragon Ascension sect than enter the Saint realm. I've implicated Honorable Master. When Yifei thought about how Chu Kuangren had gone against his conscience to join the Sacred Domain and even spent his entire life savings in order to help him settle this mess, he felt extremely upset. He made up his mind to capture a few more ancient divine blood lotuses to make up for Chu Kuangren's loss. At that thought, Yifei retracted his divine sense and immediately quickened his pace towards the Blood Cloud Mountain. Roar! Just as he rushed in, a monster covered in black flames charged out. This monster's body was covered in sharp spikes, and its entire body was a huge eye. Lu Chun, who was in front, immediately warned, "Wang Fong, Zhang Bao, be careful. This is a strange-eyed evil spirit that can only be born from a divine-grade blood lotus. Its eyes can create illusions, and its spikes are highly poisonous. Yifei, you go and slay this evil spirit. Lu Mohan, you're in charge of covering the rear." Although it was called covering, it was actually a form of surveillance in disguise. It was similar to the battle supervisor during a war between two armies. If there was a soldier who was afraid to fight, the battle supervisor could kill that soldier on the spot. Lu Mohan naturally knew this, and a cold look immediately appeared on his face. "Brother Yi, go ahead and fight. You have me behind you. If you're worried about me, I have senior brothers Lu Chun, Wang Fong, and Zhang Bao behind me." These four Saint Realm sky prides really disgusted Yi Fei. What was even weirder was that the one called Wang Fong was actually a man. Yi Fei did not know how to describe his feelings at that moment. However, there was no way he would be a free fighter for the Saint Realm. Knowing that he would be attacked if he retreated, Yi Fei gritted his teeth and charged into the depths of the Blood Cloud Mountain. Roar! Sensing that someone was approaching, the evil-eyed evil spirit immediately went berserk. Countless sharp spikes suddenly grew longer and larger and shot towards Yi Fei at lightning speed. That kind of power could probably kill some weak Renzu on the spot. However, Yi Fei did not even look at these sharp spikes. With a flash of light under his feet, he had already rushed from the front of the monster to its back. However, he had no intention of fighting with this monster. Instead, he continued to charge into the depths of the Blood Cloud Mountain in an attempt to escape the surveillance of the Saint Realm. Sensing Yi Fei's actions, Lu Mohan's body suddenly erupted with an extremely cold aura. This demon lord, Yi actually dares to run away. Senior brothers, let's attack together and slay this demon. With that, Lu Mohan was about to give chase. However, Wang Fong, who was beside him, pulled Lu Mohan back and actually giggled. "Junior brother Mohan, let that demon go in. You may not know this, but the interior of the Blood Cloud Mountain is a dead end. If Demon Lord Yi goes in, even if he doesn't die, he will be seriously injured. When that happens, we can humiliate him however we want." Chapter 28:31. Emperor Grade Blood Lotus. Only after rushing into the Blood Cloud Mountain did Yi Fei realize how common the ancient god's blood lotus, which was a priceless treasure in the Heaven Realm, was in this mountain. All he could see was the light of the guardian evil spirits soaring into the sky everywhere. When they sensed an unfamiliar aura rushing into the mountain, these guardian evil spirits immediately exploded. All kinds of strange demonic beasts appeared from the depths of the Blood Cloud Mountain. Moreover, according to the quality of the Blood Lotus, the level of the guardian evil spirits formed was different. However, the weakest ancient god's Blood Lotus condensed an evil spirit that had the attack power of an ordinary Renzu. At this time, these evil spirits that appeared in front of Yi Fei were not just one or two, but a mountain. There were evil spirits everywhere, and death was everywhere. Yi Fei did not know that the Blood Cloud Mountain was also known as the Mountain of Death in the Holy Region. Over the years, countless geniuses from the sanctuary had tried to rush into the Blood Cloud Mountain to explore the true face of the mountain. However, without exception, all the geniuses who had rushed in, including a few who had been personally praised by the Sanctuary Celestial Emperor, had died in the mountain with a grudge. Therefore, when they saw Yi Fei abandoning them and rushing into the Blood Cloud Mountain, except for Lu Mohan, Lu Chun, Wang Fong, and Zhang Bao, all had mocking expressions. Zhang Bao even suggested, "Senior brothers, that demon Yi is courting death and barged into the Mountain of Death. Why don't we make a bet to see how long he can last? How long can he last before escaping in a sorry state? I bet 100 breaths. If he doesn't come out after this time, then he's basically dead inside," Lu Chun said proudly. Zhang Bao sneered when he heard this. "Haha, 100 breaths? Senior brother Lu, aren't you overestimating that devil Yi too much? I bet that he can only last for 70 breaths at most. 50. Junior brother Moan, what do you think?" Wang Fong looked burly, but when she spoke, her voice was soft. She kept holding Lu Mohan's hand and had no intention of letting go. Lu Mohan was angry, but he did not dare to say anything. Other than cursing Yi Fei in his heart, he could not wait to get away from Wang Fong. Boom! Even as Lu Chun and the others were making their bets, Yi Fei was already fighting the wretched spirits on Blood Cloud Mountain. He was surrounded by boundless sword light, the Taiji Tribulation Sword, and the Emperor of Heaven's Regrets, all of which were used to block the attacks of the wretched spirits. The helpless thing was that there were too many ancient god blood lotuses hidden in this Blood Cloud Mountain, and they were all of the same color. There were divine-grade ancient god blood lotuses. Any one of these blood lotuses, if placed outside, was enough to cause a bloody storm in the heaven realm. Yi Fei. Yi Fei was immortal is Heavenly Palace sect. It's very likely that the Sacred Region sect is using the Fairy Demon Palace as a treasure trove to continuously nurture such a large number of heavenly talents. Yi Fei thought silently, but he did not show any mercy. Using the sword Dao was not enough. He condensed layers of life and death seals in his hands, forming 24 death celestials that continuously bombarded the surroundings. However, the guardian evil spirits of the ancient god blood lotuses did not seem to be afraid of death. Even though they were continuously killed by Yi Fei, there were still a large number of evil spirits that roared and charged at Yi Fei. Outside of the Blood Cloud Mountain, Lu Chun and the others who saw this scene were even more disdainful. They said coldly, "Demon Yi, you may be strong in the outer sect, but in our sanctuary, you so-called outer sect geniuses are nothing special. We'll give you a chance. Hand over all the treasures you have, then kneel down and beg. We might be able to help you escape." "Kill!" Yi Fei roared furiously in reply. Activating the life and death seals was not enough. Yi Fei decisively took out the Divine Ghost Cauldron. The Divine Ghost Cauldron shook the sky and killed all the evil spirits that came near. Yi Fei's footsteps were also under the siege of many evil spirits. He actually killed his way into the depths of the Blood Cloud Mountain step by step. Lu Chen's face changed on the spot. The other Sacred Region elites who saw this scene were also deeply shocked. Demon Yi is actually so strong. Even so many guardian evil spirits can't stop him? Humph. He's just an ignorant fool. If he's only in the periphery of the Blood Cloud Mountain, there's still hope for him to escape. If he continues to go deeper, no matter how strong he is, he will definitely fall. You should know that the Blood Lotus entrenched in the depths of the Blood Cloud Mountain is not a divine-grade Blood Lotus, but an Emperor-grade one. Lu Chen's face became even colder as he watched Yi Fei's figure gradually go deeper into the mountain. He really hoped that Yi Fei would be frightened by the Emperor-grade Blood Lotus and flee. However, Yi Fei did not flee, because this was his only chance to escape the Sacred Region surveillance. If he missed it, not only would he not gain anything from the Divine Demon Palace, but he would also not dare to take out the ancient God Corpse Spirit's quintessence fragment to awaken it. However, the guardian evil spirits in the Blood Cloud Mountain are a big problem. The deeper we go, the more terrifying the attack power of these evil spirits becomes. If one were to say that the evil spirits guarding the periphery of Blood Cloud Mountain had an offensive power equivalent to the human ancestors, then as Yi Fei continued to venture deeper, the offensive power of the evil spirits would soon reach the human ancestors' level. 30 breaths, 40 breaths, 50 breaths, 70 breaths. Soon, the time Yi Fei spent in the depths of the Blood Cloud Mountain had far exceeded everyone's expectations. This was like 2 tight slaps to Wang Fong and Zhang Bao's faces, making them so angry that their faces turned green. They roared in exasperation. 100 breaths. He definitely won't last 100 breaths. Boom! Suddenly, the Blood Cloud Mountain trembled. The mountain peak near where Yi Fei was fighting suddenly turned into a huge ancient god blood lotus. The evil spirit formed by the blood lotus was more than 10 times larger than the evil spirits that had besieged Yi Fei. As soon as it appeared, the evil spirits around it trembled and instinctively prostrated themselves on the ground. There's no need to look. Once the guardian evil spirit of the Emperor-grade Blood Lotus appears, Demon King Yi will definitely be finished. Lu Chan retracted his consciousness and stopped paying attention to the commotion around the Blood Cloud Mountain. He was also afraid that this would attract the attention of the guardian evil spirit. When he saw the emperor-grade blood lotus appear in front of him, Yifei couldn't help but feel a wave of fear. This was because Yifei actually sensed a trace of the ancient god's aura from this guardian evil spirit. In other words, this evil spirit's attack power was very likely at the level of an ancient god. Could it be that this blood cloud mountain is really a dead end? Yifei subconsciously had the urge to turn around and leave, but just as he was about to do so, the shard of divinity that had vanished from his chest suddenly reappeared. It was even vaguely transmitting a wave of incomparably urgent emotions. Yifei's heart couldn't help but tremble. Could the ancient god's divine spark fragment be guiding me to go deeper? Chapter 28:32. Fierce evil spirit Yi Fei hesitated. Sensing Yi Fei's lack of action, the quintessence fragment in his chest suddenly became boiling hot, as if it wanted to leave Yi Fei's body and fly into the deepest part of Blood Cloud Mountain. Oh no! This quintessence fragment contains the last trace of the ancient god's corpse spirit's true spirit. I can give up on the heavenly emperor's inheritance, but the immortal demon true body is a cooked duck. I can't let it escape. Yifei's expression was solemn, but he finally made up his mind to go deeper. After all, his martial arts foundation came from the sword principle and the ancient god's golden body. However, the ancient god golden body that the ancient god corpse spirit had imparted to him wasn't complete. What was truly complete should be the immortal demon true body. This was a cultivation technique that could allow one to become a god, or even an emperor. Yifei definitely didn't want to miss this opportunity. He immediately lifted his foot and rushed towards the sovereign grade blood lotus. The sovereign grade blood lotus transformed into a strange-eyed evil spirit and let out a furious roar. Like an enraged king, it suddenly released a terrifying evil spirit's aura. Boom! An illusory demon's foot suddenly came crashing down on Yi Fei like a mountain. Yi Fei roared angrily and unleashed the heavenly emperor's superpower. He formed a seal with both hands, forming the 24 death heavens that branded the void and collided with the demon's foot. However, the attack of the sovereign gray blood lotus was too strange. Its demon's foot seemed to be able to turn illusory and miraculously penetrate Yi Fei's seal of life and death, continuing to attack Yi Fei's body. Yi Fei vaguely felt a strange power of heaven and earth converging on the foot. Then, the foot landed, but it didn't step on Yi Fei's body. At this critical moment, Yi Fei unleashed the Eye of Space. The power of the sacred dragons, I made Yi Fei's left eye shine with a golden luster. As Yi Fei looked at the place, the space suddenly froze. The foot that was about to step on Yi Fei suddenly stopped. Now! Yi Fei roared. He touched his spatial belt, and the ghost deity cauldron appeared. It shot toward the body of the blood lotus. At the same time, his spirit moved, and the indestructible sword token in the sky palace turned into a black gold divine sword that fell into Yi Fei's hand. The heavenly emperor regrets slashed out forcefully. The entire void was being torn apart, collapsed, and destroyed. However, what shocked Yi Fei the most was that his attacks, regardless of whether it was his divine ghost cauldron or the undying sword token, actually passed through the body of the sovereign blood lotus. They were unable to cause any harm to the sovereign blood lotus. Instead, the strange eyes of the sovereign blood lotus evil spirit revealed a human-like look of mockery. Yemo has been here for so long. He should have discovered that the sovereign blood lotus of the Blood Cloud Mountain is different from other blood lotuses. This sovereign blood lotus not only possesses intelligence, but the guardian evil spirit it transforms, and it can also make its body illusory, making it immune to the attacks of martialists. Even our sacred realm has spent thousands of years and still failed to find a way to restrain this evil spirit. Otherwise, we would have occupied the Blood Cloud Mountain a long time ago. Lu Chun silently counted his breaths. When he saw no signs of Yi Fei escaping after 100 breaths, a smug smile finally appeared on Lu Chen's face. Wang Feng and Zhang Bao, who were watching from the sidelines, also hurriedly flattered him. Senior brother Lu's divine foresight is still the best. You didn't do anything and still managed to kill Demon Yi. When we get out, ancient God Long Yang will definitely see you in a new light. Lu Mohan sighed, but Yi Fei's death finally made him heave a sigh of relief, especially since the sovereign blood lotus of the Blood Cloud Mountain had been awakened. Lu Chun and the other three didn't dare to continue hunting the guardian evil spirit and seize the ancient god blood lotus here. Fortunately, the world within the immortal demon palace was vast enough. The ancient god blood lotus wasn't the only treasure here. Even if the Blood Cloud Mountain was gone, there were still other treasure mountains filled with large amounts of natural treasures. If one was lucky enough to obtain them, it was even possible for a peerless genius to take another step forward. Sigh, I didn't expect that Demon Yi would fall so suddenly before he could rise. Seeing the way Lu Chun and the other three dealt with Yi Fei, the Rinzhu geniuses of the 9 major sects, regardless of whether they were enemies with Yi Fei or not, felt a sense of sadness in their hearts. Chun Xiaoyao's gaze turned grave, while Feng Yun's eyes also revealed a contemplative look. However, under the berating of the 2 Sacred Realm geniuses who were monitoring them, Feng Yun and Chun Xiaoyao didn't have the chance to approach the Blood Cloud Mountain alone. Instead, they were forced to walk towards the other mountains. Soon, the surroundings of the Blood Cloud Mountain became deserted. There wasn't a single person to be seen. Inside the Blood Cloud Mountain, the battle was still ongoing. Relying on its incorporeal body, the guardian evil spirit of the Emperor-grade Blood Lotus successfully withstood all of Yi Fei's attacks. However, the spatial power of the sacred dragons was very strong. It still froze the guardian evil spirit in the void, unable to move. Moreover, after Yi Fei had broken through to Rinzhu, the power of his Eye of Space had also increased tremendously. It could now trap the enemy for a longer period of time. This was also the reason why Yi Fei didn't have the slightest intention of giving up even though all of his attacks had missed. Kill. After the Heavenly Emperor repented, he let out another resounding dragon roar. Yi Fei's seal of life and death disappeared, and he suddenly launched the Sacred Dragon Fist. His arms suddenly turned into dragon arms, filled with the merciless power of the Sacred Dragon. Boom! When the Sacred Dragon's power blasted down, the entire void exploded and the Blood Cloud Mountain shook slightly. Unfortunately, the people who had left didn't see this scene. Only the guardian evil spirit of the Emperor-grade Blood Lotus let out a furious roar. Although it had the ability to incorporeal and avoid Yi Fei's Heavenly Emperor mystic ability, this ability wasn't limitless. Clearly, the guardian evil spirit's incorporeal ability had a time limit. After this time limit, the incorporeal ability would disappear and the evil spirit's body would still be injured. However, this evil spirit was an existence comparable to an ancient emperor. Although it had been frozen by the Eye of Space and couldn't move or attack, there were still many more evil spirits around it. As the Emperor-grade evil spirit roared, the King-grade and Divine-grade evil spirits prostrated on the ground, not daring to move at all, also roared. They were like an army that had suddenly been awakened and launched their most terrifying and frenzied attacks at Yi Fei. Yi Fei's expression turned extremely unsightly in an instant. One evil spirit was easy to deal with, but a group of them was extremely terrifying. It was no wonder that the sacred region hadn't been able to break into the immortal demon palace and obtain the Heavenly Emperor's inheritance after spending thousands of years. Chapter 28:33. Whip of the Great Way, Big Black. Come out quickly and follow me to kill. Yi Fei still didn't want to give up. After all, he had gone to great lengths to get rid of the sacred domain surveillance and enter the Blood Cloud Mountain. Coincidentally, the ancient god's corpse spirit's quintessence shard had reacted violently to the mountain. If he retreated like this, not only would all his previous efforts be in vain, but he would also be ridiculed by the sacred domain's geniuses and Lu Mohan. Of course, If Yifei knew that Yifei hadn't come out after 100 breaths, and that Lu Chun and the others had already left, he would definitely leave without saying a word, and then make a long-term plan. It was precisely because he didn't know this that Yifei was worried that if he retreated, he would likely be attacked by a large group of Saint Domain prodigies. Even though he knew that he was more likely to lose than win if he continued to fight, Yifei still gritted his teeth and used all of his strength to make one last gamble. He madly waved the divine ghost cauldron and slashed out the imperishable sword token. At the same time, he formed the seal of life and death with one hand and continuously blasted it forward. At the same time, in order to increase his attack power, Yifei also took out the dragon turtle, hoping that he could rely on it to temporarily resist the attacks of the other evil spirits. The dragon turtle didn't disappoint Yifei. The moment it appeared, its body had already become extremely huge. It immediately swiped its dragon claw at the evil spirits that pounced at it, sending them flying backward. However, the dragon turtle's attack was only effective against the king-grade evil spirits. In the depths of the Blood Cloud Mountain, there were more divine-grade evil spirits. The attacking power of these evil spirits was not any weaker than some of the human ancestors' supreme prides. The dragon turtle was unable to withstand their combined attacks. Immediately, it activated the Imperial Armament Art and transformed into a huge black walk. Roar! When the dragon tortoise turned into a black pot, it smashed a large number of these divine-quality evil spirits to the ground. The Imperial Armament Art was a two-way cultivation technique. Not only could the cultivator borrow the strength of the battle pet, but the battle pet could also borrow the strength of the cultivator. At this moment, the dragon turtle was borrowing Yifei's strength. This time, it was able to use its late-stage Divine Lord realm to suddenly erupt with power and temporarily block the evil spirits that were pouncing over. It was unable to approach Yifei. However, this resistance was only temporary. After all, Yifei's Eye of Space had a time limit. Once this time limit passed, and the evil spirit of the Emperor Grade Blood Lotus broke free, Yifei might not be able to continue deeper into the Blood Cloud Mountain, even if he joined forces with the dragon turtle. As he thought of this, Yifei's attacks became even more ferocious. He wanted to take advantage of the fact that the evil spirit was still stuck in the void to kill it. However, Yifei had forgotten something. It was very difficult for Renzu to kill an Emperor-grade evil spirit that was comparable to an ancient Emperor-grade evil spirit. Even if he unleashed all his strength and used the sword domain that he had yet to fully comprehend, Yifei still couldn't kill this evil spirit. On the other hand, this evil spirit gradually recovered from its stagnant state. Yifei also became depressed. Could it be that I really can't pass through this blood cloud mountain? Squeak! Suddenly, a crisp sound interrupted Yifei's pessimism. Seeing Yifei's depressed look, Xiao Chao immediately ran out of the beast mark space. Not only did he cheer Yifei on, but he also immediately brandished his god-lashing whip and lashed it at the Emperor-grade Blood Lotus. Yifei and the dragon turtle were shocked at the same time. One had to know that these evil spirits were not real ferocious beasts. They were just illusions of evil spirits. If so, would Xiao Cao's deity striking whip still be effective? Roar! At this time, the Emperor-grade Blood Lotus evil spirit had just broken free from the Eye of Space. It roared and charged at Yifei furiously. Unfortunately, it wasn't facing Yifei's sword light this time, but Xiao Cao's Seven Wonders Divine Light. These lights actually merged with the god-lashing whip and lashed the evil spirit. The evil spirit immediately let out a painful and sharp cry. It looked at Xiao Chao as if it had seen something extremely terrifying and roared in anger. Yifei and the dragon turtle also looked at Xiao Chao in shock. Xiao Chao's god-lashing whip can actually hit evil spirits in addition to vicious beasts and divine souls. After recovering from his shock, Yifei was ecstatic. He hurriedly pointed at Xiao Chao and said, "Xiao Chao, continue to hit them. Hit them hard. Kill one, and you'll be rewarded with 10,000 sticks of Tonghulu." However, Xiao Qiao waved her hand, indicating that she was now a Xiao Qiao with aspirations. 10,000 skewers of Tonghalu, this kind of trick used to coax children, no longer attracted Xiao Qiao. After listening to the dragon turtle's translation, Yi Fei's face darkened. However, he still gritted his teeth and said, 100,000 sticks. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Cao's body was already burning with a blazing six-colored divine light, and strings of big hearts appeared in her eyes. At this time, what appeared in front of Xiao Cao's eyes was not a fierce and ugly evil spirit, but a string of lively, candied haws. Xiao Cao's fighting spirit was immediately aroused like a raging fire. Yi Fei and the dragon turtle also saw Xiao Cao's full strength explode. Xiao Cao's vine whip actually evolved into a Xiantian Dao whip that shone with boundless divine runes. This Dao whip should be the real deity whipping whip. However, because Xiao Cao was still young, he was unable to fully unleash the terrifying power of the deity whipping whip. Even so, when the Xiantian Dao whip was lashed out, the evil spirit formed by the sovereign grade Blood Lotus screamed in fear. Not only did it not dare to attack Yi Fei, but it also kept retreating in an attempt to escape. This scene made Yi Fei even more suspicious. This evil spirit was not as simple as a guardian evil spirit of the ancient god. However, after seeing Xiao Cao condense the complete deity whipping whip, Yi Fei would not let this evil spirit escape so easily. Raging flames erupted from Yi Fei's body and directly formed the vermilion bird true form. At this moment, Yi Fei's battle strength suddenly reached the limit. He waved the imperishable sword token, and a huge sword like a mountain broke the sky and split the earth. It formed a mountain of swords and blocked the sovereign-grade evil spirit's escape route. The dragon turtle also stood tall behind Yi Fei and Xiao Cao, blocking the other evil spirits. There was no need to worry about Yi Fei and Xiao Cao's attacks. Xiao Cao's little body was already hugging the great Dao whip that was as huge as a pillar and smashed it with all his strength on the sovereign-grade evil spirit's body. The sovereign-grade evil spirit immediately let out an extremely miserable scream. Even with the ability to turn into a void, it could not withstand the great Dao whip. Its huge body with strange eyes suddenly cracked open. Chapter 28:34. The last grand wizard Yi Fei and Xiao Cao also looked at the evil spirit that had suddenly taken human form with a horrified expression. Ghost! The dragon scales all over the dragon tortoise's body stood up at this moment. It also made Xiao Cao, who had always been afraid of ghosts, quickly grab the dragon tortoise's tail and choke its neck. She looked very nervous and scared. The dragon turtle suddenly regretted it. Yi Fei also calmed down. He comforted Xiao Cao while looking coldly at the evil spirit and said, Xiao Cao, don't be afraid. He's not an evil spirit or a ghost. He's a shaman. Yi Fei made this judgment because he realized that the priest's black ceremonial robe was actually an ancient ceremonial robe that was unique to the sorcerer race. Back in the land, when Yi Fei unified the sorcerer race and became the sorcerer emperor, he had worn a similar ceremonial robe. At that time, he had thought that it was the yellow robe of the wizard emperor. Later, he found out that it was actually a robe that only the noblest members of the wizard tribe could wear. Thinking of this, Yi Fei had an idea. He had already taken out the wizard emperor's outfit that he had not used for a long time from the corner of his space belt. It was also a black ceremonial robe with a bone crown on his head and a scepter in his hand. This was the shaman emperor. When Yi Fei donned such attire, his entire aura changed. He went from a common martial artist to a noble shaman sovereign who worshipped the heavens and earth. The gray-haired old man also looked at Yi Fei with an extremely shocked expression. He also looked at Yi Fei's clothes. Suddenly, as if he was enraged, an obscure and unpleasant sound came from his mouth. It was as if he hadn't spoken for thousands of years. You don't have the right to be emperor, Yi? Seeing that the ghost in front of him seemed to be able to speak and didn't look like a ghost, Xiao Chao gradually became more courageous. However, he still only dared to hide behind Yi Fei and secretly look in front of him through the gaps between his fingers. Yi Fei's expression was cold and arrogant. At this moment, not only did the aura of a wizard emperor appear on his body, but a vast aura of the human emperor also appeared. He looked coldly at the old man and said, "Whether I have the right to be the emperor or not is not up to you. It's up to the sorcerer race to decide. Since the sorcerer race is willing to recognize me as their emperor, then I shall be the emperor of all sorcerers." Sorcerer? Ha! Suddenly, a smile on his face was a smile. It was a smile of ridicule and also a smile of sadness. Then he seemed to remember something, and his face suddenly a smile, and a sad smile. Then he seemed to remembered something. Suddenly, he seemed to remember something. His words gradually became more coherent. Yi Fei couldn't help but become vigilant. Looking at this person and thinking of the origin of the Great Void, he couldn't help but have a bold guess. He couldn't help but ask, before answering you, answer my question first. Who exactly are you? What's the matter with these evil spirits guarding the ancient divine blood lotus? Xiao Chao heard this and nervously tightened his grip on the dragon turtle's neck. After all, other than the old man, there were many evil spirits here. He didn't know if there was a ghost hiding among them. The more Xiao Chao thought about it, the more afraid he became. 2 drops of aggrieved tears appeared at the corners of the dragon turtle's eyes. He secretly swore that he would never mention the word ghost in front of Xiao Chao again. Ha ha! Evil spirits guarding the ancient divine blood lotus? Yes, if you didn't mention it, I would have almost forgotten. Our great sorcerer race has been extinct. Now, we are a group of lonely ghosts, a group of sinners punished by the Emperor of Heaven. The old man's expression became more and more dejected. There was even a hint of madness and sadness in his voice. But soon, his tone became impassioned, and his expression became aloof. He coldly pointed at himself and said, "I am the descendant of the shaman ancestor, the last great sorcerer of the great sorcerer race. As for the evil spirits you see, they're all the vengeful spirits of the great sorcerer race." Woo 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 woo. A sinister wind blew and malicious spirits wailed. As the old man who claimed to be the descendant of the great sorcerer race pointed at the surrounding evil spirits, these evil spirits' appearances changed drastically. They changed from various monster forms to human forms, but none of them had legs. Half of their bodies were submerged in the blood lotuses. Furthermore, these people who appeared were all like wooden puppets. Their faces were lifeless, and besides wailing, they were filled with deep resentment. Yi Fei was even more shocked. He couldn't help but look at the old man who was the only one who could maintain his sanity. What happened to the great sorcerer race? Why did you turn into evil spirits and connect with the ancient gods' blood lotuses? The old man took a deep look at Yi Fei and did not answer this question. Instead, he looked at Yi Fei hopefully and said, "I will answer this question later. Since you are also a great sorcerer, you should devote your life to the great sorcerer race. Now, in the name of the descendant of the great sorcerer race, I ask you to submit to me. You will still be the sorcerer emperor, but you must listen to my orders. Kneel down, worship the heavens and earth, and swear an oath to the great sorcerer race." The old man's expression changed, and he became incomparably dignified. He was like an emperor who looked down on the world. Obviously, this old man's status in the great sorcerer race was very unusual. Otherwise, he would not have been able to maintain his intelligence after the other great sorcerer race lost their memories and turned into evil spirits. However, what amused Yi Fei was that even at this stage, the old man still put on the airs of the descendant of the great sorcerer race and wanted him to submit to him. His arrogance made Yi Fei feel like he was looking at another Longyang. Furthermore, Yi Fei was not from the great sorcerer race. He had only obtained the recognition of the great sorcerer race by chance. Perhaps in the eyes of the great sorcerer race, the identity of the descendant of the great sorcerer race was incomparably noble. However, In Yi Fei's eyes, this old man was not as important as an emperor-level blood lotus. Xiao Qiao, let's go. Let this descendant of the great sorcerer race wake up here. Yi Fei picked up Xiao Qiao and stepped onto the dragon turtle. He turned around and left without any reluctance. The vengeful spirits that the great sorcerer race had turned into were immediately in an uproar. Although they had lost their intelligence, their instincts as vengeful spirits still maintained their respect for the old man as a descendant of the great sorcerer race. When they realized that Yi Fei seemed to be disrespectful to the old man, they all turned into evil spirits and roared. Yi Fei's eyes suddenly turned cold. Xiao Qiao, beat them up ruthlessly. Kill one, and you'll get an extra meal. Roar. Hearing that there was an additional meal, the dragon turtle immediately perked up and purposely moved closer to where there were more evil spirits. It also scared Xiao Qiao so much that she screamed and hurriedly covered her eyes with one hand while waving the deity striking whip with the other. Instantly, the evil spirits that were close to her all collapsed under the light of the deity striking whip, revealing the lonely, vengeful spirits once again. The way they looked at Xiao Qiao seemed to have become even more fearful than the old man. Chapter 28:35. When he saw that Xiao Qiao's holy whip was able to make so many evil spirits retreat in fear, the old man's face twitched violently. He had thought of ordering the evil spirits around to stop Yi Fei and force Yi Fei to agree to some of his conditions. However, Yi Fei's actions shocked the old man. Junior, do you know who I am? I am the direct descendant of the wizard ancestor. Only I have the ability to directly sacrifice to the wizard ancestor and obtain the supreme power of the wizard ancestor. If the sacrifice is precious enough, I can even let you directly possess the body of the wizard ancestor. You can transform into a real wizard king. The old man's tone seemed to have some kind of indescribable temptation. If, indeed, the one who came in was from the wizard tribe, whether it was the old man's noble bloodline or the temptation of the body of the wizard ancestor, it was enough to make the other party respect the old man immediately. Unfortunately, Yi Fei was not from a wizard tribe, but from the human tribe. Moreover, the current era was the era of martial artists. The truly powerful ones were the martial artists. Yi Fei mainly cultivated the way of the sword. To be honest, Yi Fei was not very interested in the way of the wizard, which could only borrow the power of heaven and earth. No matter how strong the power of heaven and earth was, it was still borrowed. Only the power that was cultivated by oneself truly belonged to oneself. Therefore, Yi Fei did not respond to the old man's words. Instead, he carried Xiao Qiao and rode the dragon turtle into the depths of the Blood Cloud Mountain. The old man's face suddenly became extremely ugly. He stood under the eaves helplessly, not to mention that he was only the descendant of the wizard ancestor. Even if he was a real wizard ancestor, he would have to bow his head in the face of Xiao Qiao's holy whip without a physical body. Junior, what do you want in order to help me? He tried many times, but could not find a way to resist Xiao Qiao. After all, the holy whip was the biggest nemesis of all soul astral bodies. Even if he was the descendant of the wizard ancestor, the old man finally decided to lower his proud head temporarily. Yi Fei was waiting for such words. After all, it was not easy to meet an old monster in the Blood Cloud Mountain. It was not Yi Fei's style to leave empty-handed. Long the dragon turtle did not need Yi Fei's order. It had already run back like lightning and looked at the old man expectantly. Finally, the dragon turtle's eyes fixed on the emperor-grade blood lotus that trapped the old man. His eyes did the same. When he felt Yi Fei's gaze, the old man's face immediately turned uglier than a pig's liver. He icily said, "This emperor-grade blood lotus is where my soul resides. I cannot give it to you. However, as long as you are willing to do me a small favor, I can tell you the location of the heavenly emperor's inheritance." You know where the celestial emperor's inheritance is? Yi Fei was secretly shocked. Originally, he did not have much hope of obtaining the celestial emperor's inheritance, but the old man's words still excited Yi Fei. The old man quickly sensed the change in Yi Fei's emotions. He smiled and said, "This immortal demon palace was built by us, the Grand Sorcerer. You are not the first to enter this place. I know your purpose. How about it? As long as you swear to the wizard ancestor and agree to a small condition, I will tell you the exact location of the inheritance. I will also teach you all the Grand Sorcerer's inheritance." "What? Not only can I obtain the inheritance of the Celestial Emperor, but I can also obtain the Grand Sorcerer's inheritance?" Yi Fei tried his best to look calm, but his excited tone betrayed his true feelings. Sensing the change in Yi Fei's emotions, the old man smiled with satisfaction. He was secretly amused. As expected, no matter how smart a person is, he can't resist the temptation of the inheritance of the Celestial Emperor. What's even more rare is that this child is a wizard emperor. Unfortunately, he is a lowly human. He looked at Yi Fei with disdain. On the surface, the old man showed an incomparably serious expression. He looked at Yi Fei with an incomparably gratified gaze and sighed. "I have been struggling at death's door for so many years, not because I cherish my life, but because I am unwilling to accept it. I, the Grand Sorcerer, have fallen in the heaven realm. Your appearance has let me see the hope of my wizard tribe's revival. So, as long as you can help me, sacrifice to the Celestial Emperor and summon the soul of the wizard ancestor. I can swear in front of the wizard ancestor that I will give you the inheritance of the Celestial Emperor and the inheritance of the Grand Sorcerer tribe without reservation. How about it, young wizard emperor? You are from my tribe. Since you are the wizard emperor, you don't want my Grand Sorcerer tribe to really decline in the heaven realm, do you? By helping me, you will be helping yourself as soon as possible to become the master of the heaven realm." The old man's voice was full of emotion, and his words were full of emotion. Just hearing these words, Yi Fei felt as if he was looking down on the 9 regions and controlling the heaven realm. Immediately, Yi Fei's expression became more and more excited. He nodded almost without thinking and said, "Senior, what you said is exactly what I am thinking. I have decided that I am willing to agree to your conditions. However, before I summon the wizard ancestor to swear an oath, I have a small request. I hope that you can agree to it." "What request?" the old man said with a smile. He was like an elder looking at a junior who had done well and was full of appreciation and gratification. A simple and honest smile appeared on Yi Fei's face. He was like a child who had just walked out of the mountains. He complained honestly, "It's all because of the sanctuary sect. They're too overbearing. Even though I am the wizard emperor, they still force me to enter the fairy devil palace and be their cannon fodder to collect ancient divine blood lotuses. If the number of blood lotuses collected is not enough, they will not attack me. Instead, they will make the people of my tribe become slaves of the sanctuary sect. Senior, please help me with this." As he spoke, 2 streams of tears fell from the dragon turtle's eyes. Seeing this, the old man was moved. His face also darkened as he said, "It's really hard on you little wizards. Forget it. It's just ancient divine blood lotuses. I have plenty of them. How many ancient divine blood lotuses do the sanctuary sect want you to collect? I can help you." Yi Fei's eyes lit up, but his tone was full of sadness. He said weakly, "Actually, it's not much. 1,000 divine grade blood lotuses and 500 emperor grade blood lotuses. This is the Saint Realm sect's requirement for us sorcerers." "What did you say? Say it again." The old man's gloomy expression suddenly became extremely ugly. There was even a faint trace of anger on his face. Yi Fei's heart thumped. He knew that this request seemed to have crossed the old man's bottom line. He was about to lower his request. "No." Unexpectedly, the old man gritted his teeth and said in a deep voice, "I can give you all these blood lotuses as long as you help me summon the wizard ancestor's spirit." Yi Fei was shocked. The old man agreed too quickly, which made him a little vigilant. He immediately said, "Senior, I'm also willing to help you. But to be honest, I actually escaped into the Blood Cloud Mountain. If I don't bring enough blood lotuses and go out to report, I'm afraid that the other geniuses of the sanctuary sect may come in to suppress me before I can help you." Hearing these words, The old man's gaze suddenly became incomparably cold. He stared fixedly at Yi Fei, not letting go of even the slightest change in expression. But to the old man's disappointment, this junior before him not only did not have any guilty conscience or panic, he had a very honest and sincere smile on his face no matter how one looked at it. Chapter 28:36. What a silly kid. Initially, he tried to make an example out of me by loosening the reins only to grasp them better. That really gave me a shock, thinking that he was a smart kid. However, no matter how smart he is, he still fell into my trap. Umph. At that moment, the Grand Sorcerer Elder was completely infected by Yi Fei's honest smile. While he mocked Yi Fei in his heart, he put on a serious expression and pretended to ponder for a while before saying, "What you said makes sense. How about this? I'll give you 50 God-grade blood lotuses and 5 Emperor-grade blood lotuses. With that, you can report back to the outside world." Although the Grand Sorcerer Elder despised Yi Fei in his heart, he was not stupid enough to give all 1,000 ancient divine blood lotuses to Yi Fei. Instead, he gave him a huge discount. Yi Fei saw that as the Grand Sorcerer Elder waved his hand, ancient divine blood lotuses began to appear one after another in the blood cloud mountain. Moreover, these blood lotuses were not tainted by the evil spirits, so Yi Fei could easily refine them on the spot. Foot below, the dragon tortoise was drooling. If it were not for Yi Fei staring at it, this idiot would not have been able to resist the urge to eat it again. Seeing the dragon tortoise's reaction, the Grand Sorcerer Elder despised him even more. Seeing a tortoise knows a person well. That black tortoise can't help but drool over such a small amount of blood lotuses. It's clear how much of a country bumpkin its master is. Thinking about how a country bumpkin like Yi Fei could become the Sorcerer Tribe's Sorcerer Emperor, the Grand Sorcerer Elder's mood became even worse. At the same time, he subconsciously licked his lips and whispered, "Speaking of which, it's been a long time since I've eaten meat." The Grand Sorcerer Elder was speaking in the Grand Sorcerer language. As long as he was not a Grand Sorcerer, he would not have to worry about others understanding his words. I've spent so much effort to persuade this old man to give me such a small amount of blood lotuses. It's clear that he's not a magnanimous person. I don't want to let him off and end up hurting myself. However, since Chu Kuangren's honorable teacher has spent so much of his fortune for my sake, it'd be a waste if I don't take these blood lotuses. After checking that there were no problems with these blood lotuses, Yi Fei immediately put them into his spatial belt and said confidently, "Senior, these blood lotuses are a little too little, right?" The old man was furious when he heard this. No matter how strong that sanctuary sect is in the Great Thousand World, it's just an ordinary sect established by a mere celestial emperor. This old man is willing to give 50 flowers, and that's enough. "Senior, that won't do. If it's too little, I won't be able to explain myself when I leave. Moreover, if I help Senior and Senior refuses to give me so many blood lotuses, wouldn't I suffer a huge loss?" A greedy expression flashed across Yi Fei's eyes as he spoke. The old man's eyes were sharp, so he quickly caught this and couldn't help but snicker inwardly. What a foolish brat. Even if he wants to extort this old man, he still does it so clumsily. Lowly humans are indeed greedy, regardless of whether he is an ancient god or a puny human ancestor. Without giving Yi Fei a chance to bargain further, the old man waved his hand again, and the same 50 god-grade blood lotuses and 20 emperor-grade blood lotuses fell before Yi Fei. After checking that there were no problems, Yi Fei kept all of them without hesitation. Elder the old man could not wait any longer and said, "Junior, I've given you the ancient god's blood lotuses that I promised. Now, you should be able to activate your sorcery and help me summon the soul of the ancestral sorcerer, right?" When he mentioned the soul of the ancestral sorcerer, the old man's tone was obviously a little excited. Yi Fei became even more vigilant in his heart, but he did not show it on his face as he glanced at the dragon tortoise. The dragon tortoise was also suddenly enlightened. It opened its black mouth and let out a dry howl. 2 streams of tears rolled onto the ground. "So hungry, eat, eat." You only know how to eat. I feed you every day. It's not enough to eat the Xian veins, but you still have to eat the ancient god's blood lotuses. I'm going to give these blood lotuses to the sanctuary sects as a tribute. Where do I get the extra to feed you, you glutton? Yi Fei looked as if he expected better from the dragon tortoise, but secretly, the dragon tortoise peeked at the old man's face. They saw that the old man's solemn expression was obviously a little stiff. Nothing. What a pity. He still needed Yi Fei to summon the soul of the ancestral sorcerer. Anyway, giving it twice was still giving. In order to further stimulate the greed in Yi Fei's heart, the old man waved his hand again. Another 50 divine gray blood lotuses and 10 emperor gray blood lotuses landed in front of the dragon tortoise. He forced a smile and said, "It's fate that we met. This little turtle's bloodline is not bad. Take these blood lotuses as my meeting gift." Before he finished speaking, the dragon tortoise had already swallowed all the blood lotuses in one gulp. It planned to keep them and slowly digest them in the future. Yi Fei and the old man were stunned. Xiao Qiao also felt a little surprised. Yi Fei immediately spoke again. This time, he did not need the dragon tortoise to translate. He seemed to have understood Xiao Qiao's meaning. He said in surprise, "What? Xiao Qiao, you also want to eat the ancient god's blood lotuses? And you must have 100 of them?" Xiao Qiao's face instantly turned red. He faintly felt that if he agreed, he would do something bad. If he did not agree, it seemed that he would make Yi Fei feel very disappointed. Just when Xiao Qiao was in a dilemma, the old man could no longer bear it. Finally, he could not help but roar with a livid face. "Junior, how long are you going to blackmail me? We are all from the sorcerer tribe. Would I harm you? Quickly summon the soul of the ancestral sorcerer. As long as you succeed, I will immediately fulfill my promise and give you all the remaining ancient god's blood lotuses." However, the old man was not stupid. After being blackmailed twice in a row, if he still could not react, he would not be worthy of being the grand sorcerer who once dominated the heaven realm. The old man's attitude also let Yi Fei know that it was impossible to continue blackmailing him. Fortunately, he had obtained enough ancient god's blood lotuses. Immediately, Yi Fei did not say anything and suddenly put Xiao Qiao and the dragon tortoise into the beast mark space. "Senior, since we can't reach an agreement, then let's not talk anymore. I will take my leave." Yi Fei had already activated the space shift and continued to rush towards the deepest part of the blood cloud mountain. The old man from the Grand Sorcerer tribe was instantly dumbfounded. It was only when Yi Fei activated his magic and disappeared on the spot that the old man suddenly came to his senses. "Oh no, I've been fooled. You're not stupid at all. You're just pretending to be stupid to cheat me of my ancient god's blood lotuses." The old man was extremely furious, especially when he thought about how he had been fooled by Yi Fei's simple and honest smile and had given him a total of 200 divine grade blood lotuses and 50 emperor grade blood lotuses 4 times. Chapter 28:37. Before me, the sanctuary had sent out countless geniuses to explore this blood cloud mountain. If you were purely summoning the spirit of the witch ancestor, you only need to seduce one of them and teach him the witch ancestor's art. However, those who went deep into the mountain all died. This blood cloud mountain was also regarded as a dead end. Dare I ask, what did you do to those people? As Yi Fei used spatial transference, he looked coldly at the old man who was quickly chasing after him. At this moment, the old man had once again transformed into a ferocious evil spirit with strange eyes due to his rage. Under the huge, strange eyes was a sharp mouth. When it opened its mouth, stinking mucus flowed out as it let out a strange laughter. Huh? What happened to those people? Of course, he would eat it. This old man has been trapped here for so many years, unable to eat or drink. Now that a few living creatures have finally come in, how can this old man not have a meal? It had been a long time since he had eaten meat. Unfortunately, Rinzu's meat was still lacking in texture. Only the flesh of ancient emperors and ancient gods would be delicious. Back when my grand shaman tribe was at its peak, My golden palace had many delicious ancient emperors and ancient gods as slaves. Their blood was the best nourishment for the grand shaman blood lotus. Their flesh was also very delicious. Roar, roar, roar. Ferocious ghost howls could be heard from various parts of Blood Cloud Mountain. In front of Yi Fei's eyes, a magnificent building seemed to have appeared. It was the unique golden palace of the sorcerer tribe. Both inside and outside the palace, there were powerful grand shaman sorcerers everywhere. These sorcerers borrowed the power of heaven and earth through sacrifices, and their combat strength was greater than that of the ancient emperors and ancient gods. Even more is for the method to summon the heroic spirits of the ancient emperors and ancient gods. They could control these dead heroic spirits to fight for them and capture the ancient gods and ancient emperors of the human clan as slaves. Then the scene changed. Yi Fei saw that the captured ancient gods and ancient emperors had blood-red seeds cruelly planted in their bodies. Soon, these seeds began to sprout and sprout, turning into grand voodoo blood lotuses. This is the method the grand shaman sorcerers used to cultivate blood lotuses. It was bloody and cruel. When Yi Fei saw this scene, his scalp went numb, and he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his body. He was horrified to see that he had unknowingly become one of the ancient gods who were being treated as fertilizer. Inside his body, the blood lotuses were frantically absorbing his blood. His life force began to grow rapidly. This kind of growth was much more rapid than simply being watered with the blood of the ancient gods. However, the burning sensation in his chest woke Yi Fei up from this terrifying illusion. Shatter! Yi shouted. Yi Fei! Yi Fei's face as E and ing S as and E. Grass was inside. It was eating the mystic veins. When it heard Yi Fei's words, Xiao Chao took a step forward. He rode on the dragon turtle and waved the god-beating whip again. Boom! The sky changed color. Dao voice. Xiao Chao summoned the great path whip again. His small body lifted it up with great effort. He slammed it down again. The evil spirit, which was chasing after Yi Fei, immediately let out a scream of fear and anger. At the same time, it opened its mouth. Countless evil spirits were attracted to its mouth. They crowded together and formed an evil spirit shield. It blocked the attack of Xiao Chao's great path whip. Yi Fei was shocked. He knew that without the Eye of Space, Xiao Chao would not be a match for this old monster, even if he had the god-beating whip. There were too many evil spirits here. The old monster could order the other evil spirits to block the attacks for him at any time. Xiao Chao could not summon the great path whip continuously. Fortunately, this old monster does not have a physical body. Xiao Chao's god-beating whip is his greatest threat. As long as I am not surrounded by these evil spirits, I have no need to fear this old monster. Big Black, let's go. With the whip of the great Tao, he forced the old man to retreat once again. Yi Fei once again activated the spatial translocation. The dragon turtle also used its fastest speed to carry Xiao Chao back into the beastmark space. This time, the old man did not chase after them. Instead, he opened his mouth and crazily devoured the evil spirit that Xiao Chao had scattered. At the same time, he let out a venomous voice. I, Nine, swear on the soul of the Grand Shaman that when I escape, it will be the time of your death. Kid, leave your name if you have the guts. My surname is Liu, and my name is Mohan. I am the disciple of the sanctuary's ancient god Yujiang. Ancient god Long Yang is my martial uncle. My sanctuary has the celestial emperor. If you have the guts, come and find me for revenge. He didn't even turn his head back as he continuously used spatial shift. Finally, he completely charged through this dangerous blood cloud mountain. The Nine Grand Shaman's strange eyes also instantly revealed a thick malevolence. Good, Lu Mohan. I, Nine, will remember this. Even if I can't kill you, I will curse you to death. Nine said. The Grand Shaman of Nine did not chase after them. Firstly, he was afraid of Xiao Chao's god-beating whip. Secondly, his soul was trapped in the Blood Cloud Mountain and could only move within a certain range. Once Ife escaped this range, he would not be able to do anything. However, the Grand Shaman of Nine, Een, did not come out empty-handed. At least, he knew Yifei's name. For a Grand Shaman, sometimes, not to mention a name, even a strand of hair could be used to harm people. Clang! Then, the Nine Grand Shaman turned back into the old man from before. With a cold expression, he suddenly waved his hand. The ground of the Blood Cloud Mountain suddenly became soft. At the same time, pale white palms crawled out from the ground. Upon closer inspection, the owners of these pale white Rinzu youths could be seen. Their clothes were tattered, but one could vaguely see that they were the clothes of the main branch of the sanctuary. This was the sanctuary prodigies who had died in the Blood Cloud Mountain thousands of years ago. A few of them had auras that were not weaker than Yifei's. Unfortunately, they had all died in the hands of the old man. Not only were their bodies controlled, but even their souls could not be reincarnated. Who among you knows Lu Mohan, Yuduo, or Long Yang? Even a strand of their hair or belongings would be fine. 9. Een asked coldly. These sanctuary prodigies were very silent, as if they were immersed in some strange memories. After a long while, a female corpse took out a tattered token and said, Master, when I was alive, Yuduo was not an ancient god. However, Long Yang was my uncle. Before I broke through to Rinzu, he gave me a projection scroll made from his blood essence to save my life. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.